Welcome to the Warband, a World of Warcraft podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Swaglock, and with me today, as always, is Jrob. Dude, Jrob, how's your week been?
It's been really good, really good. I've been pushing Mythic Plus harder than I think I ever have, which is saying a lot for me, I think, because you guys know that I always push for most of the part of the season, and it's been fun. It's been enjoyable. It's been great with family. Spending time with them too. I've been trying to find a good balance between gaming and family and life. Now it's a hard thing to do sometimes.
That is hard. I left my family for that very reason.
That's why you're about to get married.
Yeah, get married, dude. I'm about to have to figure that balance out myself. And Jrob, I am so excited because today on the podcast, as we do every fifth episode, we have a special guest today. And so I want to welcome in our special guest. He's a guild member of mine and Jrob, somebody that we game with a lot. We hang out with a lot. Yeah, dude, big nerd here. But our friend Chicken, dude. We want to bring Chicken in to talk about M+ and some M+ strategy. Chicken, how are you doing?
Bruh. Major bruh moment. Major gamer bruh moment. What are you doing, bro?
I don't know, man.
Like,
I feel like every intro has to be unique, right? And creative and
it
funny.
Doesn't, bro.
There needs to be a bit.
Okay. Fine. I'll be a part of it. Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me on the podcast, guys. It's cool to finally be on this podcast that I listen to every week. That's not a cap. I do listen to it every week.
He does.
Anyways.
You're definitely going to get another invite. Don't worry, Chicken.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we'll try to have you back.
What's going on?
Nah, but for real. For real,
do, right?
Chicken and I are both excited to have Jrob on the podcast with us today. He's a guildmate of ours, a good friend of ours, an M+ fanatic. Dude is absolutely wild for M+ and doing M+ content. One of the things
also a Philly theme.
That's true. Jrob is from the Philly area as well. So originally, not currently, but once was.
Philly probably wouldn't take me in anymore, if we're being honest, but it's okay. I still love the cheesesteaks. We're gonna go back as much as I can still.
Listen. If we hit 10 Patreon subscribers, I will drop on Patreon exclusive my cheesesteak recipe. So if anybody wants it, I make a banging cheesesteak. Yo, Chicken, let me tell you, dude. Next Saturday night, dude, just pick up some steaks. On the Blackstone. I got you.
Oh my gosh.
I got you. Anyways, we're getting off topic. We're getting off topic. We're here to talk about World of Warcraft. One of the things that came up this week as we were discussing future episodes and some things, people who listen to the podcast were asking about M+, and kind of, I think in the past we've touched on M+ a lot, but really just like, could we do an episode where we talk about strategy for M+, things that work well, things that don't work well, for those who are wanting to get into M+, or even those who are wanting to improve. So this is really kind of like a lot of advice for beginner to intermediate M+ players. If you're pushing title right now, I don't know if there's a whole lot the three of us are able to help you with, but what the three of us do a lot with our guild, specifically with Astra, is we do help a lot of players get into M+, and we help a lot of players learn M+ and good strategy for M+. And so we want to have a discussion about that. We are going to talk about some WoW news first, though, of course. But as always, I love to just hear what everyone's been kind of doing in World of Warcraft this week, what kind of like things you've been working on or pushing towards. Chicken, what's WoW looked like for you this week? I know you have a baby on the way, so life's a little busy, but maybe you fit some time in there.
Well, I have not played much. Actually, I played a little bit earlier today because I don't know. I was like, maybe I should play some WoW. I did play I did do the Dastardly Duos one time, but that was this week, right? That was this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that one time, and it was kind of cool, whatever. And what else did I do?
People found, by the way, before you go to the next thought, because I don't think we're going to talk about Dastardly Duos a lot. People found this week, by the way, that it will always scale you to 619i level so long as your average eye level is 615 or higher. So what that means is if you throw on like Fearlath, the legendary axe from last expansion,
I saw that.
it will scale that up. Yeah, it'll scale that up to
crazy.
619. So it doesn't just scale down, it'll scale up as well, and it'll scale anything.
That's friggin' nuts.
Mhm.
I did see that. It's oh my gosh.
Just for anybody who maybe wants to do something like that. And I believe there's
They
a
patched
vendor.
it though.
Did they?
Yeah, they patched it.
Ah, dang it, dude. I feel like stuff like that's fun, though. I feel like stuff like that's really fun. Why get rid of fun?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of cool, right? It is fun, but like, I don't know. I'm sure it wasn't what they wanted, right?
I mean,
maybe
know.
it was.
I don't know.
Well,
Okay, I know we're
wasn't.
going off on a tangent, but like theoretically, let's say Shadowmourne, right, is like wicked OP and would be awesome to have in Dastardly Duos, right?
That's fair.
Dastardly Duos is like a no stakes game mode, right? Like there's no like you're not like competing for some huge prize pool or some major leaderboard that everybody will like look at forever, right? So what's the harm in a player going, oh wow, the Shadowmourne is really good in Dastardly Duos if I scale it up with just the right gear. If everything else I have is like 675, then this piece of gear here would be awesome. But I don't have it. I'm playing Wrath, and that player now goes and farms Shadowmourne. Like what harm? Like I feel like that's only good, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
That's more content.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can see that. I mean, it could go a couple ways, I guess, in those, like, because that's a tough one for me, because I could see that being fun. I don't see anything wrong with that, as long as it's not like giving you extra gear or anything. It's just literally a game mode, isn't it? I haven't even done too much on that yet.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance. I was going to step into it later tonight, so today's my day to really kind of mess with it and get in there.
I am
But
too.
everything, I mean, it looks fun, though. I don't think I rushed to it right away because I knew it limits you, right? So you can only do, like, 2 sets of bosses right off the bat, and then each week there's, like, another set of bosses.
Yes. Yeah, to be honest, I did it once. It took me 10 minutes, and then I was kind of done. I was kind of over it.
Yeah, right? So why not encourage players to spend 7 hours farming a weapon that they can use for a 10-minute fight?
Exactly.
That's what is that? 7% or 7 hours longer than 10 minutes. You guys are good at math.
Dude,
what's the math on that?
not...
What percentage more of time is that? 7,000.
Wait, say it again.
I don't know.
I'm just gonna say 10%.
7 hours.
I don't even know what it's actually.
Dude, 7 hours, bro. I gotta convert that to minutes. That's just way too long. I
hear him going. I bet you Chicken's using his numpad too. Chicken's a numpad guy. He puts his numbers in the
totally
numpad.
am.
That's how you know he's smart.
Calculator just
it's like 2%.
2% more time?
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
No. So what I'm saying is 2% more time. No. What I'm saying is the 10 minutes is 2% of 7 hours.
So it's like 5,000% more time.
I think Swag has a good point.
Yeah,
though.
basically.
Let people do content they enjoy versus forcing. Like, I just feel like some things are like if it's not hurting anything, don't take it away. Like, kind of thing. Like those are things that they do a little too quickly, in my opinion. But they won't like there's, I don't know, even like, not to get in a rant, or like there's just a few things where I'm like, they just are very just like half about it. They do everything just kind of, in some way that just frustrates me, because it's like, even they brought the dinar ketchup. They just brought that out, but it was like, who really cares at the end of the day? But there's a lot of people that probably didn't do it each week, and it's like, why wasn't that at the start? Like, it's just little things like that I wish they would incorporate into the game a little faster, and like pay attention a little more to the community, because like the community is kind of like helping them in a lot of ways. Like, you see like all these even like you, Swag, doing the live streaming, like helping them out in a lot of ways. Like, they'll go in, test it. They've done even like with the new belt, they're doing all the testing for them, seeing how much damage it does, doing all the sims, things like that for them already. Like, so it's kind of crazy. Like, they are basically the beta testers for Blizzard, and it's fine if they want to go that route. I just wish they would pay a little more attention to those people that are, kind of speaking to them and saying, hey, this is a problem here, and then they forget about it, let it go live. And those are just little things, I think, because I think Swag has a great point, but then they'll go throw something out really quickly and then show that they can do it, but they won't do it for some of the more important things that I think the community feels. So I think it's a fair point to say.
Yeah, it'll be like, oh, hey, look, you can do this like side game mode, right? This like unimportant game mode, and bringing in Fearlath from last expansion is a little bit more fun.
Actually.
And it's like, oh, 3 hours later, never mind, that's gone, right?
That's silly to be like, I'm like, really, guys? Right? Come on.
And then on the flip side, it's like, shoot, dude, I like literally just like our raid team this week progged one boss because we were slow, right? Now I'm not getting my my tokens or whatever that I need to get the dinar thing. So it is interesting, but at the same time too, I often wonder, if I'm playing devil's advocate for a second, I wonder if sometimes our perception of time is like a little wild, right? Because by the time Blizzard got the fix out, right, has it even been long enough for somebody to get that second piece of loot yet?
I mean, probably no. In reality, probably.
Yeah, it has been.
Right. I think this week, right? This week would have been correct.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, yeah.
So basically now, I mean, well, essentially it would have to be somebody that hasn't played for a few weeks, like in their situation, they would only be able to get like one right now, which isn't even a big deal to me. It's just little things like that. The whole season was about like catching up faster for your alts and things like that. And it's like they forget about things. That's not even like, that's a small thing in my opinion, because that's not really that important to me. I don't think that's that important to most people. I think that was like a small percentage, maybe some alts that haven't ran it yet and things like that.
By the way, I fall in that category because I've been so busy with wedding plans that like when I log in, I'm like, I don't want to go kill raid bosses I've already cleared 100 times. I want to do some M+.
Agreed.
And by the way, though, that was a choice. I actively made that choice. I get it, right? You can't really bad luck protect something that never had luck to begin with. So if I wasn't in on the drops, I totally get why they don't want me to then get bad luck protection if I'm not like actually actively trying to get the thing. But the point I was bringing up though is sometimes I think it might be perception on our part, right? So we're looking at it and we're like, oh, they're so late to getting this done, and kind of took them a minute. But by the time they got it out, technically, if somebody wanted to have that token right away, they'd be able to have, right? Because you got the one token right off the bat, week 1, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so everybody got the first token. So basically, I think this upcoming week, I'm trying to do the math in my head.
I think they're doing it at a good time. I think they are doing the so it would technically be, unless you just did something wild, like unless you didn't get the first one.
Yeah,
you wouldn't be able to get the second one, but for most part, you'd be able to get every one if we're looking at it right.
Yep.
Unless you didn't get your first one.
Yeah. So I think right. So this upcoming week, then everybody would be able to get their.
I think that's not waiting too long. This is actually an example, probably, that them actually making a change at the right time. If we're going to give them credit, when due. Oh, yeah. So I would actually give them credit here of a good timing on that. Maybe it should happen at first, but who even cares at this point? Because it hurts nobody at this point besides maybe a fresh alt that you just brought out or something.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
that's fair.
And it is a tough question of like how much free loot, right? Like how much free loot do you just kind of give out to people? But this late in the season, and that, but I feel like that's also a question too. Like, sorry, I'm thinking of like. All right, so I'm a new player. Not a new player. I'm a newer player. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to get experience. Getting a bunch of extra gear can be kind of nice, right? Because that kind of juices you up to, like, take risks, especially later in the season. But also, I could totally see, too, people who are, like, pushing title right now maybe being frustrated. Like, oh, here comes everybody now with their free loot, right? Their giveaway loot coming in to push. But, again, I don't know. Because if I was a title pusher, I'm not a title pusher in M+. But if I was a title pusher in M+, I feel like I'd want everybody to have the same loot anyways, right? Because you're kind of really pushing skill at that point over.
No, I'm in the same boat. Like I'm in the same boat because you're gonna find, like, I'm actually gonna push for the title this season for the first time ever, and it's gonna be a crazy push. But it's just more about like just like knowing that person is at that level. Like if you see an alt that they come on into, like they could be at like 2800, but if it shows they were at like 3600 IO, you're getting instantly invited. It's just how they their knowledge is there. Like they're going to do a really good job on the key, most likely. You have a high chance of succeeding with them in the group, is kind of how that works.
You know, it's hard too. This is the point of the season, and I think you guys both probably see it too. I saw it this week while running keys. I have not done anything on my DK in a couple weeks. I've been, when I have been logging in, I've been kind of playing either my prop paladin or a lot of my resto shaman, just because I know right now what I need on my DKs to push 12s, and I just didn't have the time the last 2 weeks to really try and make any serious effort to push. I just didn't, and so I really just played my shaman and my paladin. This week I started to I was like, I don't want to get rusty. I want to still kind of stay in the groove, and so I ran some 10s and 11s on my DK. Dude, this is this is the point in the season where I feel like people start pushing maybe a little bit above their weight class, right?
Oh yeah.
And there hits this point on the back half, the back third of a season. I find it every season, it happens every single season, where man, like that whatever range key you're normally pushing in just gets suddenly harder.
To me, it's like people are. You added the dinars in, right? So like a lot of people didn't want to waste it yet, and they're like at 10, 11 keys, really wanting to hit those 12s. Like a lot of people are in a really interesting spot that they're trying to push to the spot that they really want to be to get the rewards that they, kind of think they deserve too, which I agree. Like I think you deserve mythic dinar trinkets. Like I think everyone does. I think it's just a matter of like you said, having the time to go in, do it, and actually be able to kind of build out. Because like pugging is really difficult at times. I can be the first to say that. Like I'm basically pugging all the way up to like 16 keys right now. So it's been wild, and it's been an adventure. So it's a similar adventure on the 11 and 12 keys too, if we're being honest, because it's very hit or miss. All it takes is a bad pull or two, and then your run's over, and then you got to go back to the the drawing board again.
And by the way, though, I'm not like anybody right now who's trying to push. There's no bashing. I think what I find happens this time of year or this time of the season is that you get a lot of players either right now trying to push to make those goals of theirs happen, or they finally have the gear, or the season's gone on long enough that they're curious to try out other things and they're pushing. And I find that the general skill level in the keys that I've been doing 10s basically all season, and you see the skill level come down. And again, I want to clarify, that's not a bad thing, right? I mean, it's a bad thing in the sense of my keys are definitely a lot less successful in key ranges that I feel like should be a lot easier for me to do right now, right? I found myself in a couple 10s this week where I'm like tanking, and I'm doing the same pulls I'm always doing, and I'm just seeing nothing get interrupted. I'm seeing nothing happen. I'm like, yeah, everybody good? Everybody good?
Probably the difference, I would say. It's like you said, people, even maybe some new players, older players too, really just trying to get into those higher level keys, and they're probably not as comfortable. You have to be so comfortable in higher keys. Like you have to know every move to press on a dime, because I can tell you in a 16 key on I did Dark Flame Clef last night. It was going great. But even through my bubble, it was the little AoE on the candle one where you had to light up the candles around the each side.
Yeah.
And so right before the candles start, it does a huge AoE to the whole group, and it was hitting me for through my shield. I had 10% of my health left.
Ooh, that's crazy.
So,
yeah.
But I altered timed right before, so that meant I went right back up to 100 health. Made the healer's life easy as can be. Those, if I don't do that, nobody else. It's just so important. Everyone has to pop defensives. If you don't, the run's over. If anyone dies there on that point, it was that crazy to get into those higher keys and see how important it is to have your group doing everything they're supposed to be doing at the right time every time, or it's literally the difference of the key being timed or not. So but at that level, we went in, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, I ended up being able to do the Sunday keys, and we ran some 12s, and they went perfect. They went great. Having somebody there that's done it before and can kind of walk you through it is almost all you need sometimes. we just had a random tank that popped in. He was doing great pulls, and we had one of our actually we had a guilty healer doing a great job, and then we had our DPS, so we had Spell in there, and she was doing fantastic. Everyone was doing a great job, and it was just like everyone felt comfortable because they kind of understood. But when you're going in there blind with pugs, it's a different situation, and like it can be the difference between if you're actually enjoying pushing keys or not, and which is why I've messaged you a few times, and I was like, hey, anytime, bro, you want to run some 12s, hit me up, and we'll do that, because I know how it can feel.
Crashing out, bro. I was crashing out for a minute there. I was just like, I was getting so frustrated with the groups I was in, how things were going. I was like, I can't do this. I can't keep doing this anymore. That, man.
I'm getting there at the 16s, but that's to be expected, because like I was talking about, like anyone that makes a mistake, especially like during a boss and we don't have a battle res up, like the boss fight is just so long. It's so long, man, with one DPS down, and you're like, oops, that's probably the key, and you're just kind of defeated after that. And it's a hard thing,
especially when
goes
you know
on
like the
every
mistakes
level.
on you. Dude, I ran like a 12 the other day. This might have been it wasn't the last 12 I ran, but a couple weeks ago I ran 12, and I remember the group fell apart. Kind of my fault, but we kind of could have recovered. But whatever, right? It was a 12, fell apart. And one of the random DPS in the group messages me, and he's just like, "You should probably quit the game."
Dude,
I'm like,
dude, see,
like who, like, dude, what leads you to like? It's kind of
sad though. That was actually what I was gonna mention, and whenever we started talking about the lower keys, I was gonna say I think the biggest thing that hurts people is not the game so much; it's the people.
Oh, absolutely,
it's the community 100%. Sometimes, like imagine like your first couple keys, like you're trying to learn how to play, you shouldn't be doing anything perfect, and then you're getting told like, hey, you suck at life and you're a loser, and like, go away, don't play this game again. Like those are things that are bad for experiences on the game, and they don't make you want to play that game anymore, and that's completely understandable too. So those are things that I think we as people in the community have to do better, like, and I don't know how we change that, to be honest with you. Like, I think there's a lot that Blizzard can do at times, but like a lot of times it is on the community, and I think that's a really important piece that people have to start understanding. Like, and that was honestly why I think eventually they should implement like up to a certain key level, like looking for group finder. Like essentially that would just say, hey, up to this key level, you're learning, you're doing this and this and this, and like up to even a 7, I would say, where you start earning up to you should kind of understand on your own at one point. But like, I do feel like
I'm not sure if I'm convinced on an LFG for keys. I do think M0 though. M0 needs to become way more accessible than it is currently. I think there's a lot of players. I actually think, and I think this based upon people who come into our Discord from the podcast. I think there's a lot of players who are running heroic dungeons, and they know Mythic exists, but figuring out how to start doing Mythic. No one, the game doesn't tell you how to do Mythic. It just doesn't.
Yeah, dude, like, like they're now in a position where like they have people skipping the lower keys. Like I skipped all of the lower keys. Like I did maybe a couple like 6s just to farm a couple of the crests I needed at the beginning, but like I didn't need those keys like how they did it. It was just not I'm sure some it's no problem if you do, obviously, but it was just a situation for me, like then that's a problem to me. Like I'm okay at first doing those lower keys and like people learning and progressing, and like I don't think those should ever be skipped in my eyes either. I think that's an important progression through the game, and that's part of it. Like you start with the lower keys, you have to farm out a certain amount, and then you go up to the next progression, and I mean it just hurts. I think the quality when you have
learn mechanics.
You say you have like 70% of the people that skip plus all the way up to a 7 and up, like, and then they're just running those keys. Like nobody's running a 0 through 6 in that case now, like very small percentage of people. Like I looked earlier and there's probably like 20 groups running, which wasn't bad. Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. But that was for like that was like 1 through 6 range, I think I searched. So that wasn't like amazing to see either, because it's like it shows that you most likely you're gonna do fine in a key, but how much are you gonna learn too? And I do agree with that. I think it's a community issue, though. At the end of the day, I think you have to start being better and more understanding, especially like in lower keys. Like who's to get mad at anybody in a lower key at anything. It's like, what are you actually hurting by not timing that key? So those are just little things that I think are important.
Absolutely. I find too. I just find that like, man, toxicity in WoW is, I think, oftentimes it is the highest commented thing I see for why people either dislike WoW or stay out of certain types of content. It's very rarely do I see someone comment and go, yeah, that content's just too difficult for me, so I just don't do it. Like, very rarely do I see that. It's almost always like, I tried to do it, and somebody yelled at me. I don't want to go back. I was in a key this morning. I was on my shaman. I'm, like, healing. It's a Dark Flame Cleft, right? I think the tank was a little bit... I think they were rushing a little bit, but not, like, rushing in, like, a good way where, like, they were making, like, good pack pull decisions. It was kind of rushing in, like, because it was also a demon hunter, right? So they were a lot faster than I was. And so, like kind of rushing in the sense of, like they're pulling the boss before I even have, like, 1 second to sit down and drink, right? I have, like, 5% mana, and I see him pull the boss. And by the way, let me clarify. I'm watching this fight, the fight end, right? The fight with the trash end. I'm watching the button on my bar to make sure I can click that food. As soon as it lights up, I'm about to click it, right? I'm not, because they can pull the boss so long as I can sit down and start eating before they pull the boss. I don't need time to eat. Just let me start, and then I'll start healing as soon as damage goes out. But anyways, he I don't even know. I think it might have been the orbs. I think we might have had the affix orbs up. So he pulls the boss before we're officially out of combat. I don't have a second to eat. Whatever. We do clear that boss. We're fine. And then he goes zooming down. So this was like the minecart boss, right? He goes like zooming down the hallway and just starts like jumps over the ledge and starts chain pulling everything down there and dies. And I'm like, hey man, wait till I get to you.
Wow.
And I'm not going slow,
man,
by the way.
Like
I have no problem keeping up. Like I have no problem keeping up. They were like zooming. Nobody was with this guy. Anyways, that happens. Whatever. He's learning. He's trying to figure out, because as a tank, you have to learn what's the balance between timeliness, right? Because I'll also get yelled at if I go too slow or my packs are too small. I'll get yelled at if I go too fast. My packs are too big, right? So there's a balance in there, and that balance changes as key levels go up or down. But as soon as the group fell apart, two of the dudes just started trashing the tank, like on their way out. And I like messaged him. I just said, "Hey man, like honestly, like your awareness of mechanics was great. Like you did a fantastic job. Don't let them get to you. Like you'll figure out pacing. Pacing on tanking is weird, right? Like I want like
no,
you just
I see. I mean, it is weird because honestly. It happens. Like it happens a lot. Like tank, it's a lot to learn on a tank. Like I think you know that. Like you've been tanking a long time, but like it's still a different feeling. Like as you progress in higher keys, even like you feel like, oh wow, I'm getting rushed a little more. And like in higher keys, people are starting to be like a little more toxic at times. Probably. Yeah. You're noticing, just because it's hitting that higher level of like that. Now they're just like. They hit to this point where they expect perfection, and you're like, nah, we're not there at all. Like if we're hitting 18 to 20 keys, okay, we can expect perfection there. But at this point, and then people are still going to make mistakes. I can't tell you how many times we make mistakes in like the higher keys, even like I was trying to push a 17 and like just one simple mistake, they're dead, like we were talking about. But I think that's really important.
Chicken, you were pugging a lot this season, right? What was your
that's all
general?
I ever do.
What was your general?
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
What was your general experience while pugging?
I mean, I don't ever have a problem pugging, to be honest. I don't know, man. Whenever I'm with you, I'm sorry, I kind of missed a little bit of it. Was it your key that you were running that time, or was it someone else's key?
Today with the Dark Flame Cleft. That was someone else's key. I think it might have been. It might have even been the tank's key. I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Bro, you just have bad luck running keys with people. I don't know what it is for you, man.
I also might just read the chat. It's possible that's the case. Again, like
you just might what? I'm sorry.
I mean, I also read the chat. So maybe if you don't read the chat, you just don't know this.
We had one.
Oh, I don't read the chat.
Well,
I'm pretty bad at reading chat.
I was gonna joke and say like there was one big pull last night, and then this Warlock was freaking out because he died really quick, and we were in the middle of the pool still, and he's like, AI. He's just spamming AI in the party, like asking me to give him intellect buff. And I'm like, dude, chill, man. I'm not about to freaking go out of my rotation to give you, like, I'll give it to you after the staying pool, man. Chill.
Yeah.
And then, like, but it was just like, relax. People are so like, it's weird, man. Like, people get really riled up in Mythic. I've really learned to calm down in Mythic Plus, but like a lot of people react. But I had a funny story. You said the Demon Hunter pulled like that on this Mechagon. It was probably a few weeks ago, but he was out. It was a new tank, you could tell, but he was in like a 12 or 13 key we were doing. And you know when you're going down that ramp and there's a bunch of the bombs at the bottom there and you have to round them up? He does his charge all the way up to the front, dude, before anybody's even close to this guy. Jumps, pulls all the guys, and then by the time we're there, all the AoEs have already went off and blowing up. And he's like, "What are you guys doing, CC?" I'm like, "Dude, we can't even get to you yet, man. You can't like use that much mobility against us, your own teammates. Like, it's great to have that mobility, but you got to know when to use it. Like, leap to one group to the other, but be close enough to your group to like pull them together nice and make sure your group's there to CC with you." I think that's like such an important thing, and I think it's like hard at first when you're a tank because there's a lot of pressure on you.
I think there's also pressure too. There's also pressure, I think, with aggro and threat. And we'll actually we're going to wrap this conversation up, I think, here and move on in a second. But I do think there's a lot of pressure when it comes to threat, because if you pull a pack and then that Dev Evoker or that Ret Paladin in your group just starts pumping and then they rip all that aggro and they die, that's awkward. That's so weird. And they can't help it. I have learned that maybe, you know, some people just they see number go big and they don't think about anything else. But sometimes as a tank, I want a second. Like, give me 1 second to make sure I have threat. The number of times I'm running past and I'll just blood boil a pack. I'm literally just, here's a blood boil, so you're following me. And then that random like Dev Evoker. Right now it's Dev Evoker. In the past it was like always Ret Paladin. But that random Dev Evoker in my group that's now like hard single focused on one pack, like one mob in that pack, while I'm like 30 feet away, like running to pull another pack. And I turn around and I'm like, dang it.
Yep. Well, that's the problem. Like, I think that in the higher keys, you'll see that as you start running like 12, 13s, like that, nobody dies from aggro mostly. Like everyone's smart enough to be situationally aware. Like a Pally has a bubble. DK's like another tank at times if they're DPSing. It's ridiculous. I remember like damaging on my DK and just feeling like I could tank for like a good minute while the tank.
There were logs. I believe DK is the highest survival like DPS.
It's crazy.
Like they die the least, I think, of any class.
I thought it was like survival in general. Like they had the highest survival just like in general.
I literally would just sit there and like heal myself with Death Strike, and it didn't matter what spec I was. It was unbelievable.
It's wonderful. Broken. It's so good. But
too bad they don't have a raid buff.
But I make that comment just to say, though, I feel like there's so many nuanced pieces to the conversation, right? So like that DPS player is trying to get as much damage out as they possibly can, because the longer mobs stay alive, the higher the risk of everybody dying or the timer not completing, right? The tank wants a second to set up their pull, right? Because they're not pulling one pack at a time. So let me tag and run.
My thought is, if they pull aggro from you before you set up your pull, it's their fault. 100% in any way. There's no doubting it. There's no way to tell me otherwise. I'll tell you straight up as DPS.
Well, the problem comes though is that like I know that, but I can't watch the Dev Evoker who's now 30 feet from me who pulled threat.
That's just
I can't look over and just watch him die. Now it's on me as the tank to like fix him.
Well, yeah, you have to try to save it.
And you would think he would just walk within range of me, right? Like that's all it takes. Like if you were
his little flame, go run over to you with a little dash, maybe.
Yeah, like a little dash. Right? If it was like a mage, just blink over on top. Like all you have to do is just get on the tank, and then the tank will pull it back.
If you do that with me, right, as a mage, I'm gonna do my mirror images, which gives me no threat now. And then I'm going to have Invis ready just in case because I'm going to go for the highest health mob and then I'm going to try to nuke him down. But with mirror images, it's basically like no threat now. so I can't pull from you.
Yeah.
And if I don't have that up and I pull somehow, I'm gonna invis, and then I lose all threat there.
Well,
so
that's
like
why. That's why
Yeah.
I only invite Night Elf Devastation Invokers now, so that they can just shadow meld.
Oh my gosh.
Tell me us to have Shadow Meld on Keybind and be ready at any moment to press it.
Dude, Shadow Meld is nice. Okay, but anyways,
It's good, man.
I'm gonna change the conversation a little bit because I think we started to step into the bigger picture of the conversation for today's podcast episode. So before we do that, we just went on a 30-minute side trail. I just want to say, if you're enjoying the podcast, if you like the Warband, if you've listened to plenty of our episodes before, Chicken and I have a Patreon as a way to help support the podcast and make more happen. We're going to talk about that at the end of the episode, so make sure to stay tuned. There is bonus content for Patreon subscribers, so stay tuned to the end of the episode for info on that. I also want to say, as we talk about M+, as we talk about doing content together, learning M+, being in groups that are beneficial to understanding mechanics and not having a toxic environment, our guild, Jrob, Chicken, and I are all in the same guild. It's called Astra. It's a phenomenal guild. Every Sunday afternoon, we run M+ keys together. We organize them. Anything from 2s all the way up to 12s. It is a fun time. If you want a safe place to learn M+, it's a great guild to do so in. Even if your Sundays aren't free, it is still, we're organizing groups all the stinking time. It's a pretty decently sized guild too. So you'll find people, and it is a great guild for learning mechanics, learning dungeons, and just having a safe environment to do that. If you want to join our guild, you can find the link to our Discord, not the guild's Discord, but the podcast Discord in the description. When you pop in, just ask for an invite to Astra, and we'll make sure that you get in. It is a North American server, so you will want to be on NA servers, otherwise it won't work. But with that said, what I want to talk about today, guys, is M+. Now, obviously, we've been joking about our experiences M+. We've been talking about what we've been going through in M+ lately. But I want to kind of make a shift and start thinking about what new players or players who have been too nervous to go into M+, or even those players who are doing M+, but maybe historically they've only done like 6s or 7s, right? And they're thinking, okay, I want to do 10s. I want to start pushing up to 12s. Maybe I want to look at Keystone Master, Keystone Hero, Keystone Legend. I want to get all my portals so I can teleport to the dungeons, right? I want to kind of take the journey. So we're going to start thinking through, okay, the player who has only ever done maybe heroic dungeons, they don't even know how to queue for a mythic dungeon, all the way then through, and kind of conclude with maybe some of those more high-level pieces of advice or guidance. A lot of this, I think, will be pretty basic info that we've maybe talked about before, but I love just the idea of having a concise place to kind of come in and get all that info.
Makes sense to me.
Perfect. So I guess my first question, I'm going to ask questions. I'll probably chime in at times too, but Chicken and Jrob, I'd love for you guys to kind of give your thoughts and opinions on these predominantly,
Sure.
and just kind of see where it goes. But so the first question is, let's say I've been playing WoW. I love WoW. It's a fun game. I hear people talk about M+. I want to start getting better gear. I've been doing delves. They're fun, but I just want more. At what point am I ready? Like, what point am I ready to do M+, or even just Mythic dungeons?
Oof. I mean,
That's a one.
I don't know if anyone's truly ready, to be honest. I mean,
I think he's right.
Go ahead, Jrob.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say it depends on if you're in a guild or if you're like purely pugging. Because there's probably a big difference between your experience there and how things will go. But I think if you're just pugging, I think you want to at least comfortably run heroic dungeons and be able to just kind of shred through those really comfortably and get gear through there. And then once you're comfortable doing that, I don't think you're gonna have any problem running Mythic 0. And then once you have Mythic 0 down, then you just kind of gradually, I think the most important thing is probably people overwhelm themselves. I don't know how you guys feel with that, but it's like trying to feel like getting to a 12 key or whatever your goal is. Maybe it's too high at times to say, just slow it down a little bit, progress slowly, enjoy the, your time on WoW. And ultimately, I think it's just to a point where you can't burn yourself out. Yeah, I'm a culprit of that a lot, but I would be curious of Chicken's opinion on what he thinks of this, because it's hard, because I think you're gonna have different experiences based on your pug group and like what happens and them.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think there's obviously a couple different things, right? I mean, when you're getting ready to do content like M plus and what we consider, I don't want to say infinitely scaling, but it is like I mean, it's not truly infinite scaling, because obviously there's like a cap on gear and things like that, but there's like I mean, as far as you can push is as far as you can go, right? And it's, to me, I think it's easier. I do agree with Jrob. I think it's easier to do when you have people that you can get into, talk to them. I personally don't do that because I'm a nerd and I don't know how to talk to people. So I'm like, hey, it's just easier to pug them. I just pug them, and I think that gets a little intimidating. I think there's some notion behind putting together a group that I think a lot of people struggle with. That like, oh, I don't want to put together a group. Like, I don't want to. I know Swag, you've talked about in the past. Maybe you've talked about in the past. Maybe you haven't. About like, you've gotten with guildies like one or two, and you like run keys with them, and they're always like, oh, I want to run my key, but I want you to like lead the group, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's like a notion of people just like struggle to get like, oh, I don't want to pick people because I'm afraid like if I choose people and it goes bad, like it's gonna like be my fault. And it's like I think getting over that notion pretty quickly is a huge thing if you want to do pugs. Like you don't know yin and yang, you don't know what is a fugazi. It doesn't even exist. Like you can't just choose people and based on rating and their eye level and their class and all that stuff. Like sometimes you get someone that's under geared and under rating and they're like pumping numbers. Sometimes you get someone that's like 3K rating and super high eye level and they suck. So
yeah,
one thing that's fair.
One thing too, to the comment you made, right? Because I do have people who I'll like run keys with, and they'll immediately make me the group leader and be like, "Hey, can you post the key and pick out who you want for the group?" What I found is I think it can be hard if you're a little bit more empathetic when forming your groups, right? Because if you're a naturally more empathetic person, you're going to see names come up, and you're going to be attaching like feelings to those people. Right, you're gonna be like, oh, will they be disappointed if they don't get the invite? Am I gonna like hurt them? Am I gonna offend them? The reality is, though, is that's part of the gameplay, which kind of sucks. But part of the gameplay is you saying, okay, who am I equipping myself with to go conquer this task? Right, that's ultimately the question. I have a task to conquer. Who am I equipping myself with to do that? Do not be afraid to just be picky. As Chicken said, there's not a lot of info you get. Right, you kind of get eye level, you kind of get their current rating. And you kind of get maybe if they leave a note on something, right? I think with certain add-ons, you can also see what the best dungeons they've timed are, and the best time for that specific dungeon. So you can get some more info there. But at the end of the day, you still are kind of taking a risk. But I would still try to take the most minimal risk, right? Like what risk looks the best for you to take? Right now, in the past, I would have said eye level was one of the most important things to look at. This season, eye level has been so free to get. And we've talked about that play on the podcast, that I actually almost never look at eye level anymore when I'm forming groups. And it's almost exclusively rating and then also like what their best time dungeon is.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, I think you guys have great points because like I think the most important thing is the first, who cares what somebody says to you? Like you gotta not if you're gonna run a Mythic Plus, you gotta just get a hardened shell to what people say to you. Like it cannot phase you at the end of the day, especially when you're learning. Like you're gonna make mistakes. People aren't gonna understand that from a pug, but you're gonna make mistakes. You're going to do things wrong. They're going to do things wrong. And the next key is the funny thing. Karma hits really fast. So I think the most important thing is you can't be hurt by the words that are said to you. Like if something happens and a mistake happens, just move on to the next key. That's the coolest thing about keys and those people that are in the pug, you're never going to see them again. So that, and I agree with that point 100%. And then I think it's just really important also to take time, like Swag said. Like it's okay to not invite somebody. Like it's if you're doing a guilty run, it's most important to give you guys a good group at the end of the day. Sure, it'd be, might see someone that I think if you're friends, I would always invite a friend. I would have always invited a guildie.
Yeah,
that's always a different situation.
Yeah, let me clarify. I'm sympathetic towards my friends, to my guildmates. It's when like Joe Schmo I've never ever even met or seen or talked to before in my life, right?
Just a random pug, which is I think what we're all talking about. It's just random pugs in the finder. It's okay. You don't have to be a little patient with it. If you see somebody that's a little lower IO than you're comfortable with, wait a little longer. That DPS will queue, like probably with a good increase, and you'll be happy you waited. Like patience is key, I think, is also something. Don't feel like you have to. If there's 3 or 4 people in your group, like if it's a tank you're looking for, or a healer, the little patience, they're going to be understanding too. They've all had to be wait for keys and get groups. They'd rather form a good group that's going to succeed in the key rather than rush and then disform halfway through. So I think those are really great points.
Yeah. Now I want to kind of still stay on this conversation piece. Is there, and I know you had said like it kind of depends, are you running with guildmates? Are you trying to pug? Right? So again, they haven't even done a single M0 yet. They've done some delves, maybe they've done some LFR, maybe they've even stepped into normal, maybe even heroic rating, right? But they've just never done M+. Okay? So I'm saying that ground there, they've never even done M0. Okay. What eye level? Because that's the question people ask a lot, right? They'll come and be like, hey, what eye level should I be at to start doing Mythic dungeons?
So essentially they're trying to get they're at Mythic 0 and they're trying to push into the keys, or they haven't
even done M0 yet. They have no clue. Again, remember, the game doesn't tell you anything about M0. You kind of have to discover it on your own, right? Like it's hidden away. The group finder is kind of confusing at first, even though it makes total sense to us. It's confusing when you first see it, right? So they've never even done it. What's a good eye level to begin with?
I would say first you'd probably just run delves and push gear up through there, like crazy enough. Now that I'm really thinking about it.
Yeah, so they've done delves. They've even stepped in and done a few bosses on heroic raid, right? They're just nervous. They're just nervous. If you were to give a number, that you're like, this is a safe spot to start at for M+. And by the way, though, the number that you and I would start at for M+ is probably a lot lower than what we would suggest for somebody coming in at the first time. Yeah.
I'm thinking like probably 640 item level.
Okay.
Like honestly, like you're probably fine. Like even lower probably, but if you're like trying to, be very comfortable in it, I would say 640. And then you can start pushing the zeros, see how those go. If you just run through a 0 and you're like, wow, this is the easiest thing I've ever done, then probably a 2 is going to be relatively close to that difficulty too. Then you start to notice it around, I think probably in that the lower tier, I would say like 4 or 5s, you'll start really even maybe 3, 2, 3, just depending on the group and how things go. But I would say that's the right way to start, and then I think you'll have a good time at least queuing and finding groups at that level. I don't think a lot of people are that picky on score when you're hitting like the 0s through like the 2 and 3s, but that really when you start hitting the 7, 8s and then 10s and up, you have people so picky, which is what we were just talking about. Sometimes you're a little patient with your keys.
Chicken, do you agree with those numbers, or would you make change to that?
No, I would agree with that. I mean, it's hard to give an eye level number to it because I think, agreeing with you guys, a lot of it's just, wherever you feel comfortable, right?
Yeah.
It's a little less of, hey, like, are you ready to do it? Or like, are you, what's the goal? Or what's the word I'm trying to look for? Are you, oh my goodness.
No, you're right. No, you're right. What, are you going for like heroic gear? Are you going for like a plus, like what's your goal? Do you want to go up to a +7 key and get like heroic gear soon? Like you gotta have like a goal in mind too, I think you got the right idea there.
Because I think goal plays a big part into it, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it does. Yeah, I mean, it's goal and it's comfortability, right? I mean, whatever you feel comfortable with. Like if you hey, you've never run this, +2 or +4 or +7 or +10, I'm trying to hit some points there where, maybe affixes come into play and stuff like that. Like I get it. Like, you want to feel comfortable, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's such an interesting thing because, right, whatever your goal is, right? Because I know for me, and experience plays a huge part into it. Like if you have a lot of M plus experience, it's a lot easier to go in at lower eye levels because a lot of the difficulty of M plus isn't actually just what your gear is. The difficulty of M plus is like reacting to mechanics appropriately, reacting to more stuff happening.
100%.
And so I was tanking 2s on my prop palette. I probably shouldn't have been. I was taking 2s on my prop palette, I think at like 590 eye level this season, right? It was definitely a little rough. I definitely needed maybe a healer that was like a little bit more ready for it. But we did it. We were timing keys. However, Jrob saying, well, if you want to go do a 2, you should probably be like 640 eye level. Now, or even M0, right? You're saying M0, but let's say 2s for this sake, right? You want to do a +2, that's a 640 eye level. That's a 50 eye level difference. 50 eye levels is freaking huge. Like freaking huge, right? I would not suggest anybody who has not done M plus before to go into 2s at 590 eye level. That's insane. Don't do it. You will be miserable. People will be upset, right? But there is that question of like, how fast do you want to get into M plus, right? If you're sitting there and you're like, yo, because I do get it, by the way. I have people come in and like, hey, is my eye level good enough for M plus? And I look at them, they're like 645. Yeah, dude, absolutely, bro. You'll have no problem.
100%.
You'll have no problem. And 640 eye level, I would say, is actually like pretty generous. You'll feel very comfortable in there. If you're
that's like exactly.
If you just hit level 80 right now, like you're listening to the podcast, and at this very moment, ding, you just hit level 80, and you're like, swag, I want to go into M plus as fast as I possibly can. I've never done it before, but it sounds so fun. I love watching Dorky do it on his live streams. I want to do it. I want to go do that. Awesome. I would say probably push at that point 620, right? 620 is probably where you want to be. You're still going to have to be very aware of mechanics and what's going on, but you should be fine. And the loot that drops at the end of a +2, I think, is 639 eye level at the end of dungeon loot, 649 in your vault. So you're even getting upgrades from doing M+, right? It's more rewarding than if you're 640. But if you're like, yo, swag, I've always wanted to try M+, I'm just terrified of messing up. I don't want people to be upset with me. Yeah, I think 640 is a very obtainable goal that would allow you to have a very, very, very safe learning environment for M+. That doesn't mean you won't die. That doesn't mean you're invincible, because trust me, if you ignore mechanics, you'll still die. It doesn't mean your damage will be great, because you got to learn your rotations, but it's a lot safer. So I think there's a pretty big spectrum of like kind of what your goal is.
Yeah, I think in the catch-up's pretty good now. I think you could get 640 in a day.
Yes,
just doing like all the new catch-up things that they have. I don't know what all they have.
There's a thing in Halifall that's like pretty good for catch-up too, right? Yeah, so 620 even 620 eye level. Because if you just, now again, I don't know how accessible this actually is for people, but even 600 eye level, you just go to the auction house, buy a couple 600 eye level pieces, and then there you go, right? Now, is that reasonable for everybody?
Yeah.
Probably not.
No, but I think you're right, too. Like, your item level is going to go down. Like, you start at 640 that you're going to need as you're learning Mythic Plus. And then as you're in +12 keys now, a year later, crushing it.
Yeah.
Now you're probably going to be like, hey, I just do a fresh season. I don't need any time in between those. I can probably just start in like a 5, 6, 7 key now and just start crushing it right up.
Yeah.
It's going to feel a lot different based on your experience that you've had in it and understanding the mechanics and knowing when to use your everything, like just knowing how to play at that, because it's basically like a speed run through a dungeon is what you could think of a Mythic Plus as. Yeah,
absolutely. And you have to remember too, like when the new season comes out, I'm not sitting there going, all right, what eye level am I? Am I high enough eye level? I'm just sitting there going like, what's the highest I can push? Like, and I only know that by either succeeding or failing, right? I either do it or I fail at doing it. And if I fail at doing it, I just keep trying until I can do it. And so that's some of the fun too, right? I mean, it's infinitely scaling content. So the idea is there should be points where you're struggling. However, I also get it if you don't want to look like you're struggling to everybody else. I think 640 eye level is a very safe eye level that your group would that you would feel pretty comfortable throughout the dungeon, but you might not want to be waiting until you're 640 eye level. And I think 620 is safe to go in. Just make sure you wear mechanics. Make sure you're ready to pump. And on top of that, you'll get pretty good reward from it if you start at that too.
Yeah, I think 620 is plenty comfortable. I really, especially at a Mythic 0, like, I don't think you're going to have any issues. Like, you're even going to be in a situation where you probably can absorb a few things and start to see, oh, I shouldn't be standing in this, I shouldn't be doing this, and you'll probably feel it, and you'll die sometimes, but that's part of Mythic Plus and the journey and learning. So,
and
I agree.
Yeah. So my next question for you guys, right? How do you go about learning to do Mythic Plus, right? Because I don't think, between the three of us, I don't think it was just we went in and we kept doing it until we figured it out. I think all of us kind of used external resources. M Plus can feel overwhelming. It can feel kind of scary, especially for the tanks out there, right? The tanks who go in and they have to get the perfect percent. Because if you don't know, if you're listening right now and you don't know, in a Mythic Plus dungeon, you have to kill a certain percent of enemies in order to complete that dungeon. It won't count as complete. Like, if you skipped all the trash and only killed bosses, it wouldn't count as being completed. You need to get 100% of the required amount of enemies killed, and it changes per dungeon. So then you have to go in and go, okay, how do I know what I need to fight and what I don't need to fight? Because you don't have to kill everything, but you have to kill a certain amount of things. Everybody's dependent on me. I could kill more. We could just go kill everything, but if we kill everything, then that's just taking up way too much time, right? Because that's just stuff I don't have to kill, and I'm taking time to do it. So I think there's also for healers, right? Healers have to learn what should be dispelled, what shouldn't be dispelled. DPS need to learn what should be kicked, what shouldn't be kicked, what needs to be avoided. How do you handle mechanics? How do you handle boss mechanics? Because bosses they usually have added mechanics over top of what you would normally see in just a heroic dungeon. So there's more going on that you wouldn't have seen before. How do you guys prepare for M+? Like, what are things that helped you improve? And I want to preface this question with, like, don't hit me with the, like, craziest high capacity ones. Like, I'm not expecting anybody to go watch Growl heal plus 18 keys for the next 2 hours, right? What are simple things? What are simple tools that people can use, whether they're add-ons, videos, websites, whatever, that can help people just improve quickly before they go in, or prepare? I guess prepare is the word. Sorry.
I mean, you kind of hinted towards one. Like, my go-to, and I'll explain why it's my go-to. It's typically my only go-to, outside of some add-ons, obviously, but we can touch on those. YouTube. I go straight YouTube. There's one. I'm looking up the channel right now. His name is Hawk.
Okay.
He does like mythic guides and stuff like that. He's a fairly small channel, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But he does like really quick, like no BS, like dungeons. And it's really good. They're really short. They're like 4 or 5 minutes. It'll get you everything you need to know. And then my other one I use is Keystone Guru. That's really good if you're a tank. It kind of gives you a good like lay of the land real quick. I do those two because I think they're the best ones and they get you the most bang for your buck. I mean, these aren't the greatest options if you're like trying to jump into like maybe 20s. Well, if you are jumping into 20 keys, well, they're definitely not the best options. But maybe like 10, 11, 12s, you might want to look into more options that Jrob will probably suggest. But like, my big thing is I have a very limited amount of time to play WoW during a week. So what can I do outside of actually physically getting into the dungeon and playing? What can I do to prepare myself? And I found YouTube is obviously the easiest thing. You can watch YouTube on your lunch break at work, watch it while, you're in the shower. If you watch things in the shower, I don't know. Right. But I found that's the easiest thing because, I want to like my key completion rate is typically pretty high. It's like 90%. And it's because, I only have a limited time, so I want to make sure I'm most prepared for these dungeons before I get into them. And So yeah,
Which,
there's
by the way, you
obviously
bring up a good
add-ons you can
point,
get.
right? You bring up a good point because some people be like, I don't want to watch a 5-minute video before I do this dungeon. I just want to go do it. I don't want to, right? But the dungeon's 30 minutes long. So what happens if you get into the dungeon and it falls apart 15 minutes in, 20 minutes in, 25 minutes in, right? Well, now you just wasted more time trying to learn that dungeon than you would have wasted if you just took the 5 minutes. And I know Jrob's going to bring up some good stuff, so I'll let him do that in a second. I want to touch on one more point you made as well. You mentioned like having like a no BS or like no filler kind of YouTube video guide, right? Those like 3-minute guides, the 5-minute guides, however long they are. I think it's important to keep in mind that M+ being infinitely scaling, as it goes up, different things become more dangerous, right? So if you're coming in at an M0 or +2 level, bosses are really the main thing you have to worry about. If you're a tank, yes, you need to worry about the route and how to get people to where they should be. But if you're a DPS or a healer, boss mechanics are really the core thing that you should be worrying about. I can't really think of any specific trash right now that have a particular like super difficult mechanic that are going to wipe groups if they're not aware of it. Bosses, I think, at the moment. And the reason why I say that is because as you're preparing for those +2s, that's what you want to focus on. Find the videos that just give you the quick rundowns of the bosses in those dungeons. And maybe they'll mention 1 or 2 trash packs too that you should know about. And then as it gets harder, you'll start to realize more and more later on. But you don't need to be the expert on that dungeon before you walk in. You just got to know the basics. Like, what are the basic things? Yeah. I would also say, before we pass it to Jrob, never be afraid to test stuff out in M+. If you're in M0. And when we say M0, that just means Mythic without a keystone modifier. So you're going into Mythic, but you're not actually putting a keystone in. It's just the base level Mythic. There's no timer for M0. So if you're like a tank especially, but really anybody, don't be afraid to test things in M0. Like, don't be afraid to be like, hey guys, because there's no percent requirement for M0 like there is for M+. But don't be afraid to be like, hey guys, I'm going to do my pulls as if I'm trying to get percent so that you can practice that route that you see on KeystoneGuru.com. I think it's actually Keystone.guru or something. I don't remember. But you can practice that in M0, and you'd be surprised that oftentimes a lot of these like super pro players, they do the same thing. They'll like come up with an idea and they'll go to M0 and test it out because it's just easy and there's no risk and you can just go right in. Mm-hmm. All right, but Jrob, what you got? What's your wisdom?
Well, yeah, I think it really depends on how much time you have and like the commitment that you're trying to put into like Mythic Plus, right? Like the most simple thing I can tell you is Murloc.io. Go there. The thing I've noticed, and I think everyone would agree with this, everybody has the same gear. Your goal is the same gear. Pretty much everybody has the same pieces of gear based on your spec, of course. But like, for example, like Arcane Mage, I'm basically going after the same pieces as everybody else is. So if that's your goal, you go on here. This lays out everything for you. It tells you your main stats you go after. It tells you the main gear that all the top players are using. And then that's always going to be your goal. Your goal is not to hit the ranking of these top players. Your goal is to come on here and find your best stats, your best resources, and everything that you should be going after here. This tells you everything you need to know. If 50 of the top players are doing these stats and set up this way, you want to do it that way and start building your gear around that. You don't want to do it right away. Your goal is to build it up over time. You just look here and say, hey, how do I start obtaining this gear? How do I start building my tier set? And how do I start kind of building out my kind of gear and everything I'm building for to start running Mythic Plus. And I think Murloc.io is like the best thing you can do if you want to kind of know your stats and like kind of the foundation of where you need to be. Not even at a high level, at any level, if you're just looking to see what your stats need to look like. So I think Murloc, and that's MURLOK.io, and that's just a simple website, really nicely done. And you just go to your class and you just select which one, and then you'll see the top 50 players. And then it'll show all their gear that they have, and it'll show, who has the most of this chest piece, the tier set, and it'll show it all based on like which their top trinkets are, everything. So you'll kind of know what dungeons you can go after now. And that's another thing is you start to have certain pieces in both raid and in dungeons, but we're mostly talking about Mythic Plus here. So if you have a certain trinket you're going after that kind of helps your gear and helps your stats a lot, you can start running that dungeon a good bit and start practicing that mechanically. Like if you want to go look on a quick little 5-minute video, they are videos of that on YouTube right now if you want to do that. But I find more than anything is just going in there. Like in a Mythic 0, you're not going to be punished that heavily unless you just do something very crazy and pull like the whole place and and things just go crazy. I think you have time to.
We've talked about how wild people can be with their comments in M+. M0 is not that at all. You will find when you do M0 dungeons that players are incredibly patient because they're all kind of there for the same reason, right? And so there's no risk of the timer. The timer really changes people.
It does, and it makes a lot of like. I even think like if it's your key and you're starting like on a 2 or 3 key level, and it's your key you're about to run, you're forming the group, you're taking the time to do that. I think it's okay to just go in there and even try a few routes that you've been working on as well. I think it's if it doesn't work out, who cares? It's your key. You went back and you have to go try it again. But at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt you. They're starting to build Brazil into a lot of the keys. As you hit all those key levels. So if you have, for example, it's a higher level, of course, but if people haven't heard of Brazil, it's basically once you hit the 12 key level, if you don't time that key, it doesn't go down anymore. It just stays at 12. And so that's a nice little thing they've implemented into it as you start building up and progressing in the Mythic Plus system. But I think the most important thing when you're starting out is just practicing and going in there and learning. And I would say another thing which is why WoW is actually trying to take out add-ons and weak auras, is having the right add-ons and weak auras. There's a few that will really change the way that you play and that you understand mechanics. Like there's I can even give some to Swag if he wants at the end of this. But there's a couple that really will change how you run Mythic Plus. It'll say like a frontal. If there's a bunch of frontals coming at you, it'll let you know you're about to get hit by something and let you know to pop a defensive. And then there's another with Plater. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this, but it's an add-on. And you basically, it just changes your default UI of how you see like kind of the mobs frame, and but it changes the colors of them too. So it, like, for example, you'll have a baseline default color of all the mobs, and then the mobs colors will change to purple if that mob needs to be silenced. And you'll actually know just by that, hey, I need to have a priority on these purple colored mobs, and I can actually see the cast bar right there, and I know to silence this mob, that it will show the cast bar and then it's in the sequence, and you'll understand.
You're not like tabbing through trying to keep an eye on all of them.
Because you'd be like, that's why I think that people are scared if they take out some of those add-ons, because it's like they've been so fundamentally done now, and they've done so well on so many of these add-ons that like there's some where I just know a mechanic's coming up and it's an instant pop of my defensive now. And like, there's so much going on in Mythic Plus that like, you need that sometimes. Like you can't always be looking down or over in every direction on Mythic Plus. You're kind of eyes on the prize of not taking too much damage, not dying, and trying to understand what you need to do to help your group not die. And as long as you have that in front of you, like, I think voice cues are so much better than seeing it. Because like, for example, like I'll have a cue when one of my orbs proc, and it gives me an extra orb where I can just throw another barrage out. And that, hearing that visually gives me a much quicker cue to react than seeing it, like waiting on the orb to actually go through and see my it pop back up for me. So I think like just having those cues and like using the resources that are like there for you. But a lot of, I think, players don't know where to find them. So like Murloc.io there is a great place to see where your gear and where to start, and like how to start building out the fundamentals of like what you need for crit, haste, your secondary stats, like, and kind of where you need to be at the end game, and start building up that your gear and building out your tier set. And then at the end of the day, it's just seeing how fast you progress, how well things go as you start saying, hey, I need a trinket from this key or this dungeon. Start running that a few times, get that get that trinket. If you're feeling really good in that dungeon, you can start moving up a little higher in the key levels on there, and you start understanding, hey, I got a silence, and start helping my group. Because like the more people, if you think about it, like all 5 of the players in that group, the more they're helping as a team to, you know, mass CC, silence mobs, and ultimately you know, learning to help your group as much as possible, the more you're going to time the keys. It's as simple as that.
I always joke on my shaman, right? I always joke that my most powerful heal on my shaman is my stun totem and my knockup, right? Like I joke about it. I joke about it because there's no healing that comes out from it technically. But that time, right? That time where I interrupted a bunch of stuff, or I have them stunned for a second, that is massive for our group to heal up, for our group to get their cooldowns ready, just for so many things to happen. I think we underestimate that. And before we move on, even topically, I just want to say, right, like you mentioned add-ons. I do think, again, we don't really totally know what's going to change in the future exactly. Add-ons will change in the future. However, right now, they are still very much a thing. So if you're trying to get into dungeons right now, today, really there's an arms race that's been going on for years where add-ons will make something a little bit easier to navigate, and then WoW or Blizzard will come back and make that thing harder in order to keep that challenge there. And so what happens is the game has hit a point where really you kind of need add-ons. Like, I hate to say it that way. Can you live without them? Oh, sure. Absolutely. But it will make it like 2 or 3 keystone levels harder not to have them technically. So if I was to say, hey, here's 2 add-ons, and Jrob had mentioned Plater, which is a good one for visual cues. But if I said 2 add-ons that you probably really want going into M+ right off the bat, one is called DBM Dungeon. So if you're there's Deadly Boss mods, which if you've ever raided at like a heroic level, your raid leader probably asks you to have it, right? They're probably like, hey, please have DBM or bigwigs or whatever. I'm referencing DBM instead of bigwigs because DBM I think comes in a little bit more packaged and set up for you right off the bat. Although I think players at higher capacities prefer bigwigs or little wigs because there's more flexibility to them. However, if you're in CurseForge, there's another add-on called DBM Dungeons. It's separate from main DBM. It's called DBM Dungeons, and that will give you a ton of callouts for interrupts or mechanics to watch out for in dungeons. And again, as Jrob said, having audio cues in your ear when stuff is about to happen is massive. Is absolutely massive. There's so much happening. The add-ons don't play the game for you. They're not hitting your buttons for you. They're not moving you for you. But what they can do is help maybe offload some of that brain processing onto the computer to kind of track some stuff for you. It's still on you to figure out how you want to handle it, how you want to navigate it. But add-ons are so good for helping you know it's happening. So you're not trying to individually watch 15 mobs at the exact same time, all doing different things.
Then to give Swag, to give an example, like Swag saying, like whenever you have something happen where you're like, say you're getting hit by a bunch of different things, and then a big AOE is about to come out on the group. Like imagine having that visual cue saying, hey, use defensive. Like those are just little things that are like really big that you might not see them casting that, but now you have a visual cue in your ear that lets you know to quickly pop.
A great example was last season, Stone Vault. The first boss in Stone Vault puts a debuff on the tank whenever the tank buster... Yeah, Jrob knows where I'm going with this. Puts a debuff on the tank whenever the tank buster hits. And if you dispel that debuff, it gives the tank a big shield. But that shield is needed for the tank to survive the next tank buster. So you want to let it sit there. You want to let the debuff stay on the tank until the next tank buster is about to go off. And then you want to dispel the tank right before their tank buster goes off. However, if you're a healer, you're not thinking about that. You're trying to keep everybody alive. You're trying to make sure you're standing in the right spot. You're not constantly tabbing back over to the boss to see if they're starting to do their tank buster. You're just not. You're not paying attention to that. And so I even made like a little weak aura last season, a little add-on for the healers in my groups, that it would like pop up on their screen and be like, dispel tank, just so they would know. And then I had an add-on that would show me on my screen a bar of when I got dispelled. So if I got dispelled, it would show me that shield and how much time was left on it, just so I knew. On the rare occasion, if I saw that tank buster coming and I didn't have that bar on my screen, or if I saw that bar pop up too soon and I knew it would be gone by the tank buster, I could have like one of my defensives ready. I didn't have enough defensives to always survive, but I could survive one or two missed dispels. And that was I don't think that was designed super well on Blizzard's part. I think the idea is cool. I think having the healer need to keep an eye on something while everything else is going on maybe isn't the answer. All that to say, though, there are add-ons can be great for offloading some of that awareness, right? It kind of add-ons help take information from the game and bring it to you in more manageable ways, and ways that kind of bring what you need to know to the forefront over top of all the mess and all the noise of what's going on. But anyways, Jrob, I interrupted. Oh, the second add-on. Sorry, I had mentioned two add-ons. The second add-on that was mentioned, I want to mention, is actually one that I don't personally use. Maybe I should use it. I just don't. But it's extremely helpful. Maybe it's because I'm a tank. Maybe that's why. It's extremely helpful, though. It's called GTFO. And it literally just yells at you every time you stand in something that's about to hurt you. So if you're in a circle or in a frontal or standing in slop, like, it's just going to be like, get out. Get out of there. So that one could be helpful. With everything else going on, that's one. I'll say this. That's one mistake I see a lot of brand new M+ players making, is there's so much happening, and they're just trying to get their damage rotation off because they're watching the damage meter, right? They're watching the damage meter. They're like, dude, these guys are all doing way more than me. And so you're trying to pump your whole rotation as fast as you can because you want to keep up. You don't want to be embarrassed. I'll tell you right now, surviving is way more important than high damage, especially if you're learning. Especially if you're learning M+, focus primarily on staying alive. All of the rest will come with time.
No, I think you nailed that, because like now my situation, like I've been pushing keys a long time, but like I've never even been fully comfortable. Now I'm starting to really feel fully comfortable, but it gets to a point where you're just so fluid with the rotation. Your defensives come right into it as well. Like you're not even hurting your DPS after. Like it's just about learning first, like your rotation, the situations to avoid, the mechanics to avoid during dungeons. Each dungeon's different, of course, so you have to figure out everyone differently. Absolutely. And just get comfortable. And then that's just the biggest difference, is just being comfortable in them. And so I think like the best way to start getting comfortable is finding like gear you need from those dungeons, and then farming that a little bit. You might find a few pieces you really find important. And then I think we forgot to mention one other way to gear up really well is crafted gear. Yes. Like crafted gear is incredible. Actually, like right now you'd be able to craft like 8 pieces. Obviously you have to farm out some crests right now, but it would be pretty darn manageable with how discounted they are at the moment. So you'd be able to get it really quickly. I feel that you've spent like a few days just, I don't know what the best route is now to farm crests, obviously depending on the key level and the direction you're trying to go. But I think crafted gear would get you almost a full set of everything you needed besides your tier set, which is pretty wild to think about.
Yeah, that is actually really impressive. One last thing as we're on this conversation here. This will be maybe the last point of the podcast I want to talk about. It's not just about like getting into M+ and having the add-ons, having the gear, right? There's one other element I think that plays a huge part. We've touched on it a lot, but I want us to actually be like direct on this conversation, and that is like your actual party itself, right? So we've said pug a lot. We use the word pug. Pug stands for pickup group. So when we say pug, it just means random players that you find in the queue, right? So maybe this wasn't said in the podcast. I don't think it was. If you have no experience with M+ whatsoever, you don't get randomly put into a group. You actually have to either get picked. You have to sign up and get picked for a group, or you post your key and you have to pick people for your group, right? Those are the two ways it works. It's still in the group finder window, but it's just its own like little tab in there. One of the most powerful things in M+, it is so important. WoW, at the end of the day, WoW's an MMO. And I think WoW, and I think it's good. I actually think this is a very good thing. WoW, you will always benefit in WoW from having friends. You will always benefit from WoW and having friends. It's an MMORPG. If you want to live in this fantasy world, if you want to go and chase like your goals and accomplish crazy feats, you got to bring people around you to do it. You have to. You can, if you want to be a solo player, sure, go for it. But know that that's going to come with limitations. You just have to accept that being a solo player comes with limitations, and you can't complain about that. You own that and you move on. But if somebody listening to the podcast wants to get into M+, and they know they need people to game with, but right now they don't, right? They just don't have anybody to game with. Are they just out of luck? Is that it? Are they toast, or what? Like, what can they do to maybe build up a community around them of people to do M+ with, or find one?
Yeah, it's kind of hard. Or is it?
Who could possibly help them in their time of need? No, but seriously, like, having a guild like is so important. Like, it really is. I think, you know, I could even do better in a lot of ways to help some of the newer players get a little more experience learning Mythic Plus, because I think it's like really important that your experience is good. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it should at least be positive. Like when you're running keys for the first time, and like if it's always negative, you're not gonna want to run those keys. Like, it's as simple as that. Like, like your gaming time is like supposed to be your like time where you're relaxing, and sure, Mythic Plus might enhance that a little bit, give you a little anxiety at times when you're going really fast, but like overall it is a pretty calm experience once you you get it down, and it's fun, and it can be a fun adventure if it's something you enjoy. So I think it's all about how much effort you want to put into it and how far you want to go. Do you just want to push to like 7 keys and get you some hero gear? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you want to push to 10s to get your vault each week, that's a lot of direct. Like, I think that's where most people go nowadays, is they probably push to the 10s. I've seen a lot of people push to 12s that never thought they would in our guild. And then they're at 3,000 IO now, which is insanely impressive. I just think it's every guildie at one point. I don't think we used to have like nobody running keys in our guild, and now we've got people with, I got like 20-30 people with 3K IO, and it's really incredible.
It's crazy to think about, because you're right? Like, what was it? Maybe like 3 years ago, dude. Yeah. Nobody in our guild was running keys. I remember Spell dragged me to some at one point. Yeah.
Oh man,
I did try bragged Spell the Plague Fall, her first one, and she, dude, I thought for sure she was done with keys after that. I can't even tell you the time we had. She was miserable as can be. I know she wanted to quit, but that's why I always say it's like important, like, because after that we got her in some other runs. They went really smooth, but like if that continued experience happened in pugs, you're not going to have a very good time running your keys. So like, it is important, like, try to in some way form a community. It doesn't have to be a big community, but just a couple people that you enjoy running keys with. Find a person that even in a pug that you enjoy running with one time and be like, hey, can I add you and we run one sometime? Most people say yes to that. Worst case, they say no, who cares? At the end of the day, like, try to build up a few friendships that can help you out in the long run too, and it might be something you find out that is really great.
Absolutely. I think being willing to ask people to do stuff, right? Like, don't be afraid to ask. And don't. I think one thing that people run into the trap of is they're like, oh, dude, I can't ask these people. They're all running 12s. I tell you now, man, if you ask Jrob, if you're in our guild and you ask Jrob to run a 2 because you've never done one before, if he's free, he's not telling you no. I'm not telling you no. Chicken's not telling you no. Like, if we're available, sure. Like, why not? We love doing that kind of stuff. I also think there's value too. I'll occasionally add people if I'm pugging and there's somebody in the run who I actually like really enjoyed running with. Maybe their attitude was great. They played well. I'll often be like, yo, man, you mind if I add you to BNet? This was a good run. I think
that's important.
Yeah, use that.
I think that's a good point. You should do that, and because that's how you form, you find good friendships, not the toxic ones that we're talking about that make Mythic Plus bad. And it's that small percentage, if we're being honest, because you're having that toxic experience most likely after a bad run or something happened in the run that created that situation, and that it's sad that it happens, but it's easy to kind of deter it as you build up more and get that out of your brain at the end of the day and say, hey, that doesn't matter. With those situations happen, move on, grow from it, and ultimately don't care what they say to you. Just learn and say, hey, did I do something wrong mechanically there? Did I stand in something I shouldn't have? What could I have done better? Improve that, and then kick butt on the next one. That's what I've ran 200 probably dungeons this season. So like you can imagine the mistakes I've made in those. So yeah, so it's kind of crazy. And I mean, a lot of them I've speed ran with some guildies, and we've done a lot of different things, but most of them are just 12 and up keys. And it's been a whole adventure. You could say, from like the best runs in the world to the worst, and and that's just part of Mythic Plus too. But the most important thing is like you doing everything you can and learning and enjoying it and growing and kind of seeing how high you can push for Mythic Plus and how much you're truly enjoying it at the end of the day.
Yeah, man, and you have a group that you traditionally run with a lot, right? I don't think they're playing much this season, but in the past, like a group of IRL friends that you game with a lot. There's something different. There is something different when you have a group that you're familiar with and comfortable with. You can usually do a lot more. You can usually, and you're having more fun, because if something goes poorly, they're not just like telling you to quit the game and never come back.
Yeah, it feels very like to the situational too, because it's like voice comms are so huge in those hierarchies, right? Because like imagine how important like a silence is not being missed, and then you have like 2 or 3 of your guys try to silence the same one because you're not communicating and you're in a pug, and then there's only like 1 or 2 silences available now. And then that is just like really devastating to your group in these higher levels, because like even in, I'll give you an example, like in Theater Pain, like plus 16 right now on Gore Chop, with those little ads that spawn, like they'll leap at the random people. They have a tendency to leap at the same person over and over. And like in a higher key, that's like 6 to 7 million damage every time they're doing that on me. So like I can only do so much if it keeps happening over and over. I'm out of defensives. Now I'm like, hey, healer, it's on you now, buddy. And then it gets to a point where like 2 leaps in a row, I've got like, almost 11 mil health, I think, but like 2 leaps can almost kill me. So I have to have a bubble up at all times. And it's just crazy how like punishing the mistakes start to be. And it just gets frustrating in those hierarchies. But I know that it's just a growing, like a learning curve for everybody. I think no matter what, and that's the coolest thing about Mythic Plus. It doesn't matter if you started at Mythic 0 and then growing into 2s and all the way up to 7s and up. Like you're learning in some way how to time a key and how to grow and how to be a better player and how to do higher damage at times and ultimately time the key.
Yep. But with that said, though, we are out of time because we also have to record a little bonus content after this. Chicken's got a fun game he's going to put Jrob on the hot seat with. So if you're one of our Patreon supporters, head over to Patreon. Take a listen to the bonus content. I guess if you're a Patreon supporter, you might even be listening to this already live before anybody else has access to it. Anyways, with that said, we are so excited to have Jrob here. If you want to support the podcast, you can find a Patreon link down in the description. You can check that out. It is a way that Chick and I are able to continue making content, and hopefully much more content in the future that we are very excited about. Jrob, thank you for popping in and chatting with us about M+.
That was wonderful.
Yeah, but don't go anywhere because we're gonna keep you here.
See you guys. No, I'm just kidding.